Hello, my name is Duncan and welcome to one of my hot takes. This hot take is about Ulrich's window and how that classic academic paper from 1984 has come to be highly misrepresented. Briefly, I'll introduce this old social science paper written by Roger Ulrich in 1984 and published in the journal Science. This article was entitled "View Through a Window May Influence Recovery from Surgery." Two things probably made this paper popular to cite. First, of course, human beings care about the health of human beings and are constantly looking as to how they themselves and others can be healthier. This paper addressed that topic. Second, those advocating for trees in towns and cities for the 1980s and 1990s were essentially desperate for evidence that the trees were beneficial. So this was a great breakthrough moment, this paper, to persuade people to plant trees and have a view of trees from their own windows. Let's go through what the method behind the paper was. The records of hospital patients were used as data for this paper, 46 patients overall, and they were compared in terms of their speed of recovery, post-operation recovery, and how much post-operation aftercare that they needed, as well as their comments on their hospital care that they wrote into the hospital book. Half of them, 23 patients, stayed in a hospital room with a window that just had a view of a close-up brick wall. The other half of the patients stayed in a hospital room with a wide view of the city, a view that included sight of a lot of trees. The two contrasting window views are shown on this slide. What the paper showed was that the 23 patients with that broader view out of the window, including the trees, recovered significantly more quickly than the other group, and they needed less post-operative care than the other group. They also made more positive comments about their stay in the hospital. Now, this is not a massive number of patients being analysed. It's even possible that they were perhaps cherry-picked to some extent, given the length of time used to analyse patients using these two rooms. The hospital records which were used spanned 9 years. However, the main criticism lies elsewhere. It lies with how urban forestry authors have cited this paper many hundreds of times to argue for more tree planting, sometimes specifically around and near to hospitals, or just in urban accommodations, or even really generally in terms of better human health outcomes if we can see trees. So why is that an issue? Didn't Ulrich's experiment show that a view of trees was beneficial for human health? No, it didn't. There is a big but that must be stated about this paper, which totally undermines its use to promote urban forestry. It would have been far better if the experiment had involved patients viewing 3 or 4 very different views, and to have taken into account what the patients could hear too. The only evidence there is from the paper is that a more open view of a town or city, with trees in the view, was better for patient health than a close-up view of a brick wall. I mean, that's pretty obvious if you start thinking about it. We know that staring at a brick wall for days is pretty depressing, surely. And the paper doesn't take us very much further than that. And that cannot be used to imply that trees were an important part of the therapeutic effect of that more open view from the second hospital window. Indeed, being highly critical, how do we know it wasn't just the better natural light levels in the room from the open view that helped the patients, as light levels were not measured in this experiment, were bound to be different if one window is facing a wall and the other one lets natural light in. If I were to rerun that experiment, I would be comparing a view of the brick wall with a view down maybe onto a children's playground with associated noises of the children playing, or a view across to mountains or a large waterfall. And then again, it would be interesting to see if patients preferred a view of a very natural wild landscape, or the preferred views of manicured gardens and parks, perhaps with bird feeders or something like that. If one were to run such an experiment again, it may be possible to find that different people prefer different views, and that there is some subjectivity to this research topic, and that a suite of nice nature-based views would probably work best from hospital windows in terms of patient recovery times. Fortunately, scientific work has gone beyond this 1984 paper, and there are many more papers on this topic. The direction of travel has been to get more natural views for patients, including the construction of hospital gardens and provision of more views of nature. This is probably why bringing flowers to patients in hospital was such a common thing for decades in Europe and America. Indeed, that tradition continues. Okay, so what have we learnt? Although I've talked about one bit of specific research, Ulrich's paper from 1984, that keeps rearing its head in urban forestry discussions because it was pioneering research at the time, we can draw a few broader conclusions. I think the most important conclusion in this hot take would be that if you are going to cite a reference, be sure to be very clear in your own mind what the method and the results really show. So, does Ulrich's work published in 1984 prove that a view of trees is beneficial for hospital patients compared with staring at a brick wall? Well, yeah, it does. However, does it show that the trees were an important element of that view, or that other views, or even a painting or better light conditions, might not be better again? No, it doesn't. The experiment was very basic. The outcome could be interpreted in several ways. Relying on it to demand more tree planting around hospitals is highly disinformed. Fortunately, there has been a lot more work on patient recovery since then. Continued research work shows the benefits of patients having benign interactions with nature, including the value of hospital gardens and indeed patients being involved in garden activities. Hold on a sec. Where are the trees in that? Turns out they aren't needed to speed up patient recovery in hospitals. Thanks for listening to my hot take. Talk again soon.